Greetings, ladies and mental gents, and welcome to my channel, where I like to make audio narrations of various stories from the internet. In this video, we will be focusing on a story from the subreddit HFY. Food for Thought, Part 17, Blood Pudding, written by Level 25 Human Nerd. The link to the original story will be down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. What happened next could only be generously described as a combat engagement and more accurately described as an orchestrated chaos. He didn't bother counting targets, simply moving on reflex. Aim, shoot, cover. Aim, shoot, cover. The confusion caused by the breaching charge allowed most of the others to filter in behind him. They lost Jinsar and Alhana, and they took a hard shot to the arm once the defenders got their wits about them. Alex would have killed to have some more ammo on his carbine. Instead, he settled for poking out the cover when he could. The other Sabari doing the same and tossing grenades when they could. When the noise and dust settled down, there were 3 more friendly casualties, but luckily no fatalities. The control room was littered with bodies of the enemy, though. The human tried not to look too hard at the scene, instead looking to the control panels and hoping that one of that they needed hadn't been destroyed by the crossfire. Spread out, Elson, Reklo, check the control board and see if anything still works. We need comms up and power the shields and the anti-air down. Alia, see to the wounded. Everyone else, check the bodies. I need a positive ID on the commander. If you find any survivors, stabilize, restrain, and move on. There were a few growls at the thought of taking prisoners, but the Sabari got to work without any proper complaints. Alex took a deep breath and moved to check on the pair at the console. It looked like Elson had found one working though, and the monitor was damaged and flickering. Good news? Sir, I think so. Most of the system is fried, but I can get comms back, and I might be able to reroute a few systems to gain access to the shield controls from here. The male replied, not looking up from the steady work. It'll take some time, though. Good. Get the interference cleared, and get us in contact with the blood of many. Sir. The human hit the switch on the helm and breathed deeply as it pulled open. The open air, cool, and his sweat-drenched face, and he smelled the ozone and alien gunpowder lingered in the air, mixing with the growing scent of Sabari blood. Reklo looked at him over and lowered her voice. Dread Alpha, are you well? She asked warily, her reptilian eyes narrowing a bit at the sight of him. Yeah, I'm fine, just a little pumped, still as all. He replied, seeing her look of confusion. He gave a smile and clarified. Adrenaline rush takes a bit to calm down after a fight like that. The female simply nodded and said no more, but her gaze lingered on the human. Alson worked quickly and the console and smiled up after a moment of work. Before he spoke up, though, he was a vicious gnoll that choked a shout. Every weapon was raised and every trooper turned to face the new threat. One of the wounded soldiers, a female by the looks of it, had grabbed Snitchell when she came around to check the bodies. The enemy fighter had a tusker up and under Beta's jaw. An arm around her neck and was keeping herself curled up behind her hostage. Lay down your weapons or she dies like a coward. No one moved. The wounded female pushed the weapon against the Snitchell harder, her eyes falling on Alex. I will slaughter her here and desecrate her corpse. Reklo snarled and tensed up, and Alex held out a hand. Slowly he put his weapon down and gave a gentle kick. Do it, weapons down, hands out, he ordered firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. His eyes bored into the female, though, searing the raising anger. You won't get out of this, lady. You've bitten off way more than you can chew. Even if you manage to walk out of here, I can guarantee this will bite you in the ass real quick. Everyone watched him with confusion as he slowly set his armor a drift lower, palms forward and fingers spread. Hisk grinned wider. So you're the demon that the warriors had first feared. Nothing but a human in armor, playing at being something superior. Yet here you are at my mercy because you care too much for the slave of the Kundra. Better bite your tongue before you say something you regret. Alexander was running out of things to say. He was thankful to see Snitchell's expression change, her tail curling in anticipation, breathing a slow sigh. He focused back on Hisk. Your warriors were right, though. I am a demon. You say that I'm just a human, but I slaughtered my way through here. Everything that stood in my path is now adrift with a cold void for eternity. And you're next, the moment you pull that trigger. The two stared at each other, Hisk's muscles twitching nervously. Not if you die first, she snarled, turning the weapon to Alexander. Everything seemed to slow down. Snetchel twisted and clamped her jaws down hard on Hisk's arm, throwing herself to one side and rolling. Hisk screamed in pain, the tusker barking mockingly into the floor as the limb and twisted and torn to shreds. Alexander's helm snapped shut and around him, and the right thigh panel slid open, and a revolver was in his hands. 3 shots rang out. 3 bloody holes appeared in Hisk's body as her arm separated from its socket. 4 seconds had passed. Alexander stood there, aiming down at the corpse intently. He thought that he could see it twitch, so he fired once more to be sure. With the threat truly and fully dead, he turned his attention to Snetchel next. She had spat out the arm and was wiping the blood from her muzzle. Are you okay, Snetchel? You didn't get hit. The female shook her head and rose, retrieving her own firearm and spitting out a bit more gore. Physically, I'm well, Dread Alpha. But traitor is not a dish that I wish to partake in a second time. Dishonor leaves such a bitter taste in my tongue. The two simply watched each other for a moment before breaking into a nervous but relieving laughter. The others started to join in, and after giving Snetchel a pat on the shoulder, Alex returned to the console and nodded for Ulson to open up the command signal. This is Lucifer to Throne. Do you copy? By the sands eternal, thank the Conjurer. We read you, Lucifer. Status report. We have the control room. Computers took a hit during the cleaning through. We have comm access and we think we can get the shields down and make some work. Ran into some human insurgents during the assault. Have them hold up in the hangar. 3 for now, but Asmodeus will want to monitor them from orbit. Once they realize what's going on, they'll likely try to make a run for it. Confirmed, Lucifer. What of your secondary objective? Still identifying the bodies. I'll update when I have a solid answer, Throne. Acknowledged. Thrown out. Elson nodded to Alexander once the line dropped, and got to work rerouting the systems to bring the shields down. Alexander stepped away, let the man work, and was heading towards the others to help finish checking the dead when he spotted movement above. A truly massive Sabari male, covered in scars, stood on the catwalk above with an assault cannon in hand. Contact! Alex shouted. At the same time the male snarled a challenge and brought the heavy weapon to bear, filling the area with a storm of gunfire. The squad scattered, finding cover where they could. Those that had relied on the gunner returned fire, unable to get a clear shot, but succeeding in driving the ambusher out through the ornately decorated door. As the passage shield behind the chieftain, Alex waited a heartbeat before confirming he was gone. Clear, who's still with me? Red Alpha, it was Recklow. Alex looked over to her and went pale as she saw Ithilia lying on the floor, tail wreathing weakly in a pool of blood. He was over there in an instant, visor clearing as he saw the extent of the damage. Ithilia's chest cavity reminded him of a slaughter's shack. Splintered bone and frayed sinew sat tangled in a ground of shreds and meat and organs. I need a medic here. Recklow, help me put pressure on this. He barked, tearing open a med pack and shoving it hastily unwound gauze around the gore. Dread Alpha, help me, damn you. Recklow looked at the others for help. Alexander, he cannot be saved. Please, do not prolong his suffering. Give him a warrior's death. I gave you a fricking order, Beta. Pressure, now. When Recklow only frowned at him, her crest raising, Alex turned away from her, a spark of hope as Ithilia coughed. That's it, Ithilia. Stay with me, brother. Hold on there. We're going to get you home. Alexander. I see it. Good. Keep talking. Tell me what you see. The male's head slowly turned, as if scanning the horizon. The grass, so tall as a field of gold. Every breath caused the mass of gore to pulsate slowly, blood gashing around Alex's hands as he desperately tried to stop it. It's warm. So warm there. Will be good hunting, I think. Come on, Ithilia, stay with me, please. Ithilia reached up and clutched Alex's head, drawing him down to press his forehead together. I will wait for you. I will hunt, and when you join me, you will cook." Each word flecked blood onto Alex's visor. "And we will sing and feast and—" Alex held Ithilia close, the Sabari's eyes turning glassy and empty, his hand falling to the floor with a dull and wet thud. There was a silence in the room. No one dared to speak first. Recklow watched a human, clad in armor and hunched over the corpse of the warrior. With a deep breath, she started to sing the hymn of the honored. One by one, the Sabari joined in. Alex slowly moved Ithilia's hands across his chest and pulled the thermal cloak over like a shroud. He heard the song, but didn't listen. His ears were filled with shouting and snarling, copper eyes and iron-tinged breath, ruddy, sweat-matted hair and dark blood. Chief Petty Officer Robert LaForest was punching out one of the terrorists against the stove. Alexander wrestled with another, his back against the cold steel door of the freezer. High-pitched whine filled the air. The blood-marked lips grinned. Robert moved. There was a push. Alex fell to the side as the chief pulled the insurgent into the headlock and dragged him away. The whine continued to build. Alex shouted, Robert acted, and a puddle of gore leaked out of the small ball of compressed matter that used to be the bomber, Robert, and 20-foot sphere of kitchen area. It happened again. Alex lost another brother just like before. It was his fault. He should have acted, should have been more aware. It should have been him back then and now. It should have been his blood on the stone and steel. He shrugged off the offered hand from Snetchel and stood up. Squad, secure the chamber. I want that shield down. Now. His voice was flat, cold, and unfeeling. Without a word, he stepped back and boosted up onto the catwalk, arming the last of his explosives in the launcher and taking aim at the doorway. Alice, hide protocol. Authorization code Kilo Alpha 90706. He felt another needle push into his neck, felt the burning of the stims flood into his system. His vision blurred around the edges. The sound of someone below him shouting for him came distorted and muffled. He heard someone running up the stairs of the catwalk. He fired on the door, blowing it inwards as he fled and jumped back and propelled him forward down the hallway. The suit's shields concentrated around the front of him. He couldn't remember giving the command. He barely felt the impact. His focus was locked on the chieftain waiting for him in the trophy-laden den. The male snarled something, but Alex simply kept charging forward, slamming into the male and then the wall behind. Rek roared and kicked back hard, throwing the human across the room. Grabbing one of the war blades, the male roared another challenge, slapping the floor with his tail tauntingly. The human rose and brought his fists up, the close combat blades snapping into position on his wrists and glowing brightly as they heated. So, you are the great demon then. The wear your metal skin was my kind, and you see the ferocity in your eyes. Good, good. But you are still only human. The chieftain taunted, thumping his tail in anticipation. Alex paced forward, sizing up the larger and stronger opponent. What? No threats, no glib remarks. Did my mate shoot out your tongue before you slaughtered her like a coward in the darkness? Alex shifted himself into a fighting stance, shifting the opacity of his visor to hide his face. Normally, I'd tell you to go freck yourself. You'd need the equipment for that. Whether the translator correctly transmitted the insult or not didn't matter. The tone was clear. Rex snarled and brought his warblade to bear and charged in hatefully. Alex surged in to meet the alien warlord happily. If he had been concerned about the morality of the shipmaster's kill order before, it did not show. This creature had taken another brother from him. This monster had reminded him of his failure. He would kill it for that, bashed its skull in until the corpse stopped twitching. End of Part 17. If you enjoyed this story and wish to support the author, the link is down below. If you would like to support this channel, there are numerous ways to do so. They will also be listed in the description down below. But the easiest way to help this channel is to share it, subscribe, and like. And, as always, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope that you have a good one. Cheers!